Shazam number 7. Geoff Johns writing with Dale Eaglesham and Scott Collins on the art. Did you read this, Connor, or have you
Yeah,
given
no.
this up?
I said a few weeks ago, I'm bored. I'm just bored of waiting.
No,
I don't care anymore.
I can't give it up. Chef John's, man.
It
I had no
didn't even cross
self-control.
my mind to read it. I didn't even notice it was out this week because it just basically doesn't exist anymore in my brain.
It might have been the first thing I read once I got my comics from my shop.
Matt has no self-control.
Well,
So-
Matt, you enjoyed the issue though, right?
Yeah, if I could have remembered exactly what was going on, I'd piece it back together. But I feel like in its time off, I feel like some of the script, was altered to kind of help that along.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that was just always the plan.
Yeah.
As
So
as Billy's explaining, as Mary has just, told her foster parents.
Yeah, Mary's revealing to the foster parents like what their powers are, and then they're like, "Oh, I can't believe," because the dad's like really excited.
Yeah.
He's like laughing like with glee, and he's like, "Can you believe it?
Kids are superheroes?
Two of our foster kids are superheroes." And they're like, "Actually, all of your foster kids are superheroes."
Yeah.
Delightful.
Also, the stuff with Billy's dad on the outside of the house with the lightning.
Mm.
He's like, "Oh yeah, no, my foster dad, he's really into like electronic stuff," and it was pretty funny.
He's like, "Is that safe?"
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I was like, "Hey, listen here, Mr. Abandon. You can't ask if that's safe when y'all are just showing up in my life. All right, let's."
Yeah, it's neat because they explain to the foster parents about the magic lands to explain what the other kids are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice recap because it has been a while since we talked about it. Darla and Freddy are in the whale lands, and they're going to be fed to the tigers. But of course, Tawny sticks up for them and decides to save them by fighting off the other tigers. It's actually quite a dark scene because they're pleading with the bears to be like, "Hey, can you not kill us, please?" Freddy's like, "Please, just take me instead of Darla. Just take me, please." It's actually quite dark. But Tawny...
And then he tells, when they get pushed in there, and they're falling in, before you see that Tawny's going to jump in, Freddy tells Darla, "Just close your eyes."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Damn, Johns, what the hell are you working through here?"
It's dark.
Yeah.
So, but Tawny saves them and they're on his back, and Darla's like, "Oh, you're so soft," and he's like, "Thank you very much," and he runs off.
Yeah.
It's delightful.
Well, and I just love the proper, I guess, what word would you guys use for Tawny? Like he's like I'm imagining him like Colin Firth in The Kingsman.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah, but no, there's a word. I forget what it is. Anyways, is it posh? Is that what posh is, or is posh just like upper?
It's kind of posh. I wouldn't necessarily go with posh, but he's proper.
I guess proper. Yeah, I guess proper would just be the one that
respectable.
Yeah, he's trying to talk with the tigers like, "Hey, look, guys, we don't have to eat these kids." And one of them was like, "What are you kidding, man? Kids taste better than adults." That's what they say. And I was like, again, dark. But anyways, so what they escape with Tawny's help. Tawny, whips the ass of the other tigers, and then they get out and they go. The first place they stop is so Tawny can get his clothes.
Mm-hmm. Well, not his clothes, some clothes. He goes into a tailor and takes some clothes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they run into the subway because he wants to go with them back to wherever they came from, and they go into the tunnels in the subway. And unfortunately, though, they're not on the way back to the Earthlands or whatever else. They're going to the Darklands, which is something that they really introduced in this issue. Where when Shazam leaves the family with Mary, and Shazam is the one who goes into the tunnels, and but by this point, no, Savannah's got Black Adam tied up, and he's wanting them to be into the Darklands so that they can take over, and the Earthlands will be mine. The Monster Society will have the rest of the Magic Lands. So the villain stuff's brilliant.
And while all this other is going on, the other two, Eugene and what's Pedro, they're in the Wazunderlands, which is basically just Wonderland meets Oz. And they're talking about Oz, and they run into the wizard, and they're kind of they're with the White Rabbit, And the White Rabbit's like, oh no, this is the wizard. Like, you're in the presence of greatness.
Do you know what I like about this? Is I like that they question me, aren't you dead? And he's like, true, you know, like magic wielders never really die or whatever.
Right.
And I like that it turns out to be like, you know, fake later. It's like, no. The real wizard as a ghost shows up to Billy and is like, hey, there's an imposter out there. And you're like, oh shit, the one who's with them is treacherous. Who is he?
And someone in your family isn't what they seem. Right? And
probably
they start hitting at a... Maybe? I took that as maybe it's one of the kids.
Maybe.
You know, but who knows? And that there's a betrayal afoot.
But when he gets to the Darklands, though, like whenever you arrive in the Darklands, it seems to be that you always arrive buried alive because he has to break his way out of a coffin, and there's like a tombstone saying "Here lies Billy Batson." But when he gets out, and the world's black and white, basically, he's not black and white. He's still you know in full color, but the world's almost black and white. There's like a hint of green maybe, but
it's very much a gothic horror.
Yeah. It looks really good. Like, see when he gets up, because this is where the artist changed to Scott Collins. But when he's like there and he's on the backdrop and it's like this noir world behind him, it actually looks quite good. But there's tombstones for Freddy and Darla, so he knows they're already here. He knows they've arrived and gotten out and went somewhere. So you know, we end with this cliffhanger where this fake wizards with Pedro and Eugene, Darla and Freddy are with Tawny in the Darklands somewhere, and it's like, hey, you're gonna have to go and like find them. But the final little tease is that there's a tombstone saying, "Here lies Captain Marvel," and it says, "Next time Shazam meets Captain Marvel." What does that mean? And they dropped the Captain Marvel name bomb in there.
Yeah. So Carol's showing up, right?
Actually, do you know what it makes me wonder? It makes me wonder if part of the reason why this kept getting delayed was more to do with legal, like, working out that they could use this.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe them using Captain Marvel it just delayed a lot of things because they had to just make it ironclad that they were allowed to do this?
I'm pretty sure legally they were always allowed anyway. It's only the covers they can't use it on.
Interesting.
Right.
I don't know. It makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if there was some legal just red tape to get over before they could finally release this, and that's why it kept getting pushed back.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That should, because at this point now,
I mean,
when I see him, it's Shazam. It's not Captain Marvel to me anymore.
Yeah.
If it was just this book from John's that had been delayed, maybe you'd be onto something. But it's everything he touches, so...
Well, I don't think that's fair, though, because the only other thing he's doing is Doomsday Clock, and that's always been Frank, really, right? Like, that's always been Frank taking 2 months per issue. 2 months
maybe.
plus.
I don't know if it has always been some of his... I don't know if it's always been on just him.
And then Fabik posted a
3 Jokers
a piece
stuff.
of art from 3 Jokers, and it said that piece took him like 2 to 3 days, and I'm like, geez, man.
Yeah. So I actually think that there could be something to it, and I mean, unless it's complete nonsense, but it feels like for Doomsday Clock, it feels more like it's a Frank thing, and that's why the art just takes 2+ months, and that's why the issues always seem to. But it's Doomsday Clock though has been relatively consistent, and don't get me wrong, the gaps between issues have been getting slightly longer, but it's been in a fairly consistent like drift, if that makes sense. Where it's like, okay, it's always just a little bit more than the last one. And it feels like there is like this clear kind of like he was just getting it done in this time, but now it's taking slightly longer. Whereas with Shazam, it was like all of a sudden, there's all these delays, and issue 7's been pushed back like 15 times, and over a 3-month period kind of thing. I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, they almost had it cleared, and it's not quite cleared yet. We'll keep trying to clear it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be anything at this point.
Or maybe not
I'm
even
glad
just
Shazam's back.
Or maybe
it's still a delight.
Yeah, it's still a delight. I enjoyed this show a lot. But maybe it's not even just that they use the name. Maybe it's like how they're portraying whatever they're doing with this, quote unquote Captain Marvel in the next issue. Maybe I don't know.
Because if I remember right, in the Multiversity issue, that it was, I believe it was Captain Marvel, just not on the, because I think it was called like World of Thunder, right?
Yeah.
And I believe in that issue it was Captain Marvel.
That sounds
But again,
familiar.
that's Morrison. So...
I'm just speculating because obviously this issue was delayed so much.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to think. That's really the only time it showed up, though. That's like, they've gone out of their way to be like, no, this is Shazam. I mean, even the movie, not once is there a reference to Marvel.
Unless like it was more just like for whatever reason this entire like batch of issues the story just completely changed for some reason, so you had to rewrite it all, and that's why it got heavily pushed. I don't know. It's weird, but you know, yeah, maybe it was like, you know, he'd actually like done most of the work, you know, writing wise, but then it was like, no, you have to change a bunch of it, and by that point he's already like working on Stargirl because he's showrunning that like as a full-time showrunner. So I don't know. There's a lot of speculation that could go into it and like why, but no, I enjoyed this issue a lot. I think I actually feel like I enjoyed this issue more than the last couple, and I think it's because it feels like, you know, because for a few issues there in the middle of this arc, it was very much, they're all split up into these different, like, you know, Magic Land locations, and it felt like maybe 2 or 3 in a row were kind of very similar in the sense that it was just moving each one forward a little bit. This issue, it felt like it was all starting to kind of, like, become something, and I think the Dark Lands is my favourite one so far, just because visually it looks so cool.
Shocker.
Yeah.
The horror guy loves the Darklands.
Fine, okay. I have a taste. Kid. All right.
I know. I'm not saying it. I was just pointing it out. So yeah, King Kid's still sitting around out there.
Yes,
too.
He is.
So don't forget about them. Yeah. So I just looked up Multiversity, and yeah, it was called Thunderworld Adventures, and it was Captain Marvel and the Marvel family. So.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I do not know.
Interesting. Yeah, it makes you wonder why they, you know, I mean, obviously, maybe for reasons they just want to be known more as Shazam because they don't want to have a character who's that much associated with the word Marvel. But if they can just totally call it Shazam, but just have him be called Captain Marvel the entire time in the book.
Yeah, that's all right. That's what I thought. It should just be the Powers of Shazam book, and it just covers everybody, you know.
But hey, what are you giving it, Matt?
This is an 8.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I'll probably agree with the 8. I think the story is really starting to kind of cook. I'm digging like the build to like what Savannah's up to, and now that everything's kind of coming together and the foster parents know who they are, I can see that being a fun status quo change when they all get back. So I will also give it an 8, and the art is pretty solid. There's an art change, of course, but it is when we get to a new world towards the end where we get the new artist, so it kind of fits.